Hey YouTubers, it's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art again. Got dressed up for the video in my Christmas flannel pajamas. Um, we've been talking about the vision for 2020 for a couple of years now. Carl Grossman wrote a book in 2010 that told us this was going to happen. It's no accident that SpaceX is launching while the cops are cracking down. I call them the new Gestapo because they basically are attacking people in the streets right now. Um, it's grotesque to watch. It was horrible to watch that man be murdered, George Floyd, on video, remorselessly, by the man who he knew he was being filmed. He also knows he's going to walk free. And the three cops that helped him, they're all walking free too. Those two redneck one ex-cop, they're all going to walk free. White supremacists right now are exercising their rights. The new Gestapo is really basically an arm of the corporations, the neoliberal agenda that has smothered and strangled and drowned the baby in the bathwater, as Newt Gingrich once said in I think it was the 90s. We need to drown the baby in the bathwater, and that is exactly what the Republicans are doing. And now the Republicans are equal the Democrats. So the GOP, the so-called Republicans, are really basically Nazis, and the GOP and the Democratic Party are basically Republicans, neoliberal Republicans who helped install Pinochet, one of the biggest dictators most horrendous dictators in South America. And that's coming. I mean, especially if we don't get the traitor out of the White House, it's coming. It's so interesting. I have been contemplating this, how, this channel is about reporting on nuclear contamination, and I've been posting and reading articles and doing things for 10 years, 7 years now. And I guess it's been 7 years or 8 years. 2012 is when I started. It's shocking. When we read all these reports, we listen to Libby Halevi's show weekly, Nuclear Hot Seat, about all the atrocities that are happening, the nuclear atrocities across the nation. I mean, it's exactly like the police force targeting black and brown people to fill up the prisons. That's why they're targeting them. The prison system is the new slavery. I personally know somebody who got framed. I found out someone that I knew a long time ago, really decent human being, would never do what he was accused of. Public attorney, public defender didn't even allow him to call witnesses. Didn't call me as a character witness to ask me questions. Got a 10-year sentence. The judge had nothing to do with him. Threw away the key because he's brown, from Guatemala. This has been going on. I guess he's been in jail now for 5 years. I just found out about it. But, murdering somebody on live TV, he just basically looked in the camera and said, fuck you. Just like the nuclear industry looks at us and says, fuck you. We have a contagious disease going around in this country, and the nuclear industry is like letting everybody work remotely. It's so ironic, like they're working remotely. We think we can save things? We knew this was coming. It's the vision for 2020, folks. But you know what? Their paradigm is not our paradigm. We do not have to give in. And I personally completely support the revolutionaries on the street tearing the shit up, because it needs to go. We cannot let the racists, the white supremacists take over the world. They've had their control for 500 years, 600, 700 years since, they decided they were going to South America and Asia and started looting and robbing on a big, big, big grand scale. It's time for that shit to end. And I don't know where this is going to take us. It's definitely going to be a challenge. But I mean, did you guys listen to Nuclear Hot Seat, the interview? I was talking about this a few years ago when I saw that movie. What's the name of it? Crying Earth Rise Up. I think that's what it's called. Crying Earth Rise Up. I'm looking for the brochure. It's over there in a box. Talking about the nuclear contamination and the uranium contamination. Her on Libby's show today, when I listened to it, it's not today, it got done a few days ago. They were talking about, you know how they remediate uranium mining? They put 3 inches of soil over the uranium dirt. 3 inches. That's this big about. So they put this much soil over uranium waste. And if you happen to live more than 10 miles away, you're not considered in the area where it's dangerous. And don't forget that all nuclear standards are for external use, not for internal use. So what happens if your kids are swimming in a pool that's got uranium mining tailings or nuclear contamination in it, and it gets in their ears, gets in their eyes? And, the fucking nuclear industry, these people, they taunt me whenever I make comments on any social media about how great the nuclear industry is. And then you come back at them with facts, and then they just sort of disappear and slither away because they're fucking nuclear monsters. Just like these fucking cops. Like, don't tell me there's good cops. This is the thing that really, it's just like, don't tell me there's decent people inside the nuclear industry. No, there's not. There is not. There are good people who are working for monsters. Right? There's good cops there's good people who are bad cops. And there's good people who are bad nuclear industry employees. Because all of them keep their mouth shut to save their jobs and save their reputations, while they harm everyone in their circle. I mean, the analogy between the police brutality and the nuclear industry is direct. It's based on lies, deception. I read on this very channel the scientific study talking about how the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency's safety culture model had never been tested. Implemented in 1957, had never been tested until 2012 and failed miserably. Now, they reported on it. It was produced in a scientific journal, peer-reviewed scientific journal. Check. Oh, gee, that's too bad. You're being killed. Kind of like Keith Ellison, a black man and Muslim. I think he's like the attorney general for the state of Minnesota. A man in power in Minnesota. Amy Klobuchar, the senator, used to be a prosecutor in Minnesota. Keith Ellison gets on the television and says, well, those other 3 people, we're going to have to look at the circumstances. If you and I stood by a murderer and let him put his knee on someone's neck and we held the victim down with our bodies, we forced him down while the murderer was murdering him, we would be considered accessories to a crime. But Keith Ellison, a black man and a Muslim who believes in institutional racism, evidently, to keep his job, a little order follower, is on television saying, well, we have to look at the evidence. We don't want to rush to judgment while people are fucking blowing up in the streets because they want these people arrested. People are sick of white supremacy. We are sick of being your little slaves. We're not fucking doing it. The kids, the young people, they don't have anything to lose because guess what? They're not dumb. They know they do not have a future. So what the fuck? They've got maybe 30 years left. You think they want to live in oppression where it's murder first, cover up later, and everybody up the food chain like Amy Klobuchar when she was a prosecutor? 12 times the murderer came in front of her and she didn't find a reason to try to prosecute this guy? He's a known murderer. He actually even beat his fucking wife. Like, it's beyond. It's kind of like the nuclear industry telling us, like, oh, these 3/4 inch casks in the United States, they're perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. It's not going to harm you. It's so low level. Don't worry. There's no harm done. While our children are being born with autoimmune diseases, heart disease, all kinds of shit. When they get cancer, when these nuclear workers, the order followers, get their cancer 2 years or a year after they retire, and the nuclear industry doesn't want to pay their fucking medical bills, then they start whining and, quote, become whistleblowers. The fuck is that? Whistleblowers. These are people that ought to be outing these people. If every single nuclear worker in every nuclear plant refused to follow orders and did what was safe and sound to the best, because I get it. We have an industry that is built on lies and murder and death. If tomorrow they all decided, you know what, we're going to change our ways and we're going to stand up for integrity, and they refuse to follow orders, they would shut that shit down tomorrow. We would not have a single nuclear plant, or we would be forced to find some way to deal with it that's rational. It's beyond comprehension how frightened people are of standing up to power. I get it. It's intimidating. I've been investigated by the Capitol Police. They had Sergeant Donica here in Eugene, Oregon, investigating me because I called Mike Pence's office and told him I thought his vote to not pay people unemployment through October, November, and December in 2009, I think it was, after the crash, the year after the crash, might cause some people to starve to death or freeze to death in New York City. Their office immediately called the Capitol Police and said I threatened to murder their staff. Like, what was that? That was the long arm of intimidation, letting me know that they could do whatever the fuck they wanted. And you know what? It worked. I stopped calling. I stopped writing letters until 2012, when I heard Carl Grossman on the radio saying, this problem in Fukushima is too big. We all need to get involved. So I did. And I have almost 500 subscribers, even though I neglect this channel very badly. And I'm sorry about that. But I've had a very difficult 2020, to be honest. It's been probably one of the most challenging years I've had in a long, long, long time. It's been hard. I lost my sister Becky. I think I told you guys this in January. My landlords told me they're selling our building, and then the lockdown happened. And everybody went fucking crazy. Like, we're going to die. No, we're not going to die. It's a flu. I mean, I this whole thing about the lockdown is, I just think, completely irrational. I think it's an exercise. The Boston bombings were an exercise to see how quickly and obedient people would go in their houses. And this is obviously a large-scale plan because every government shut their people inside. So I just wanted to get back to you guys and ask you if you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Like, this is just part of the plan for 2020, the vision for 2020. They're rolling out SpaceX while the cops are cracking heads. And they're reclassifying highly radioactive nuclear waste as low-level radioactive waste so they can just dump it willy-nilly without regard to anything. None of this is an accident. But you know what it takes for us to push back? It's only going to be horrible if none of us actively engage in whatever way you can. Some people take to the streets. Some people take to the phones. As you know, I call my senators and congressmen all the time, although, as we've shown on this YouTube channel, it's fucking pointless because they get paid big bucks by the lobbyists to take orders. And institutional racism and white supremacy runs every major government on this planet. And I mean every major government. At the behest of the United States, the big monsters, and Great Britain, the big monsters. I mean, humans need to decide that we want to have a happier life, that we want to take control of our planet, that we're not going to let these people tell us that we have to have an industrialized world that has no regard for the planet. We don't. Even this stupid computer that I'm on, we don't need computers. We don't need any of this stuff. So if all goes away, guess what? Our lives would probably be way better. But thank God we have computers, because it's the social media that's breaking the silence. Like here in America, we've actually watched undercover cops getting out of their cars and going into the protests and starting and inciting violence, because we have people with cell phones that have cameras. So now we can pay attention and bust them for their hypocrisy. So I wish we could do that with the nuclear industry somehow. So anyways, you guys, I'm going to end here. I just wanted to make a quick video and tell my YouTube channel viewers that I guess you're called subscribers, not viewers. And there are viewers, people who don't subscribe. So if you're watching this, please subscribe. I am going to be coming back. I'll be back before I move. I'm moving, obviously. I told you they're selling my building. So that kind of got settled today, which takes a big burden off of my heart. I am moving, and I'm moving north to be near my family. When my sister died, I realized, I think it was the 1-2 punch. My sister dying and then the lockdown happened. I realized I need to be near my family. I'm pretty far away from them. So I'm going to move north, but I will be back because I'm going to make videos. I like making videos. I get harassed. I have horrible comments. I sort of screen them so that they don't show up on my page. So if you just make any kind of ugly comment, you're just going to be deleted. It's no point, and I don't even read it, because if you start in on anything, or if you're that hideous person that keeps harassing me about, the setup that happened to Blanche in Ackerman a long time ago, I'm going to report you. But I think it's important for us to connect with each other, and I really appreciate my YouTube subscribers and all of your comments and your kindness and your generosity, because I know many of you have contributed to the movement, and I know most of you really do actively engage at some level to the best of your ability, and I really appreciate that. And I want to apologize. I think this video is going to come out all grainy. I can't figure out why my webcam is not connecting to my laptop. So when my grandson comes over, I'll have him fix all that stuff tomorrow. But anyways, you guys, I just wanted to reconnect with you. Tell you to put your courage feet on, man. You need courage when you're scared, when things are happening. And I think that's what we need now. Our courage feet on. And remember, happiness is resistance, and love is greater than fear. And these monsters are fighting hard because they know they're losing the fight. So it's up to us. Our paradigm is not their paradigm, and we can make our paradigm the reality. So talk to you guys later. Ciao. I'll get this button off. Bye.